This hour I must give you the simplest instruction I will ever give you, and the hardest. It sounds like a child could do it. I assure you, an old practitioner trembles before it. Stop trying to heal. You will not touch a word, you will not touch a thought, and you will have a clock you can see. That is all. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and think about God. Not be still and affirm God. Not be still and persuade God to do something about your case. Be still and know. Yes, sir. That's where the difficulty comes in. And if you are like me, you can slide by this hour with difficulty. But you'll get by, because nothing in the human mind loves this. The human mind wants to fix, to help, to improve, to reach out its arm of flesh and do something. And that, my friends, is nothingness. That is the carnal mind Paul spoke of, enmity against God, not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. And we, tonight, lay the axe at the root of that impulse. Stop trying to heal. Lay the axe at the root and wait upon presence. Healing is not something you do. Healing is what presence is when you stop doing. Do you hear? When you stop doing. The 3 minutes will break the hypnotism if you refuse to pick up a single thought, good or bad, holy or profane, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. When the might and the power of your thinking, your believing, your treating, your pleading are laid gently down, you will find the Spirit already here. Then I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Not you drawing, not your thought drawing, not your faith pulling levers in the sky. I, the presence, doing what I is. Now, I know you have learned belief, and you have learned thought, and you have even learned beautiful thoughts, spiritual thoughts. I am not condemning your Sunday school, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more, by which I mean stop the sin of trying to add a second power, your power, to the one power that is. This is not scolding. This is purification. We cannot come to the altar and leave a coin of human will upon it. Make peace with your brother. Make peace with the thought that wants to fix and come empty. Spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. It requires no words and no thoughts. And because of that, it seems easy. Oh, yes, it seems like we can all do it this minute, until you sit down and watch the second hand and notice that in the first 5 seconds, you have already reached for a beautiful thought about God. And in the next 5 seconds, you have remembered a diagnosis. And in the next, your soul is busy trying to be still. Ah, yes, trying to be still, that is the same arm of flesh. So we set discipline, 3 minutes only, not 30, not 3 hours of religious daydreaming, 3 minutes of a clock you can see. Why? Because the human mind must be put under authority. It must know it cannot have its playground. It is given a pen to stand in and a watchman to stand porter at the door of thought. When you come to me, nobody is on my telephone over 3 minutes. When you write to me, you do not give me the novel of your life. You do not dramatize the case. You do not invite me into your dream. You say help and you put the envelope in the box. I am not being hard. I am guarding both of us from hypnotism. The longer the tale, the deeper the mesmeric groove, and the more tempted you are to believe it needs a mighty thought to untangle it. No, it needs no thought. It needs the realization of God's presence. And that comes in the wordless hush, where he announces himself. Now, do not mistake me. I am not asking you to be lazy. I am asking for the most rigorous non-doing you have ever attempted. The refusal to think a single helpful thought is the hardest obedience there is. We are so very helpful in our humanhood. We can imagine God very helpfully, but the God we imagine does not exist. The living God is not a thought, not an image, not the echo of yesterday's prayer. The living God is the presence that, when realized, breaks the spell of the carnal mind as the sun breaks the dawn and the shadows flee, and they rested in his word. They did not manipulate his word, they rested. So tonight I lay this plainly before you. The thesis is not hidden under stories or scriptures, though we have both and will use both. The thesis is, stop trying to heal. Lay the axe at the root and wait upon presence. There is nothing here for you to fix. There is only the one to behold. The old creation with its aches and terrors is the second chapter of Genesis, the false creation. It presents itself. It shouts. It begs. It makes threats. That is the hypnotism. Do not argue. Do not bless it. Do not curse it. Meet it as nothingness by refusing it an audience in your thought for 3 minutes. If the lion roars at your door, you do not entertain it by describing its mane. You close the door and you keep silence with God. We will, in this series, go further. We will speak of universal mesmerism. We will refuse two powers. We will transfer identity. We will set a protocol of silence before every contact. But I must not carry you ahead. First things first. A foundation is laid in this simple, most difficult practice. 3 minutes of wordless stillness with a clock you can see. When we meet again live, we will do it together for exactly 3 minutes on video. Yes, together. Not because our togetherness makes power. I am not interested in group dynamics, but because you will discover that even the nearness of another's breath can tempt you to think, and you must learn to look that temptation in the face and say, "Get thee behind me. The hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, and no other way will do. So set your house in order. Make the chair ready. Place a simple clock where you can see its hand. Do not give me or anyone else a page of explanations. Do not mount the witness stand to rehearse your dream. Sit. Close your eyes. Say nothing outwardly and nothing inwardly. Let even the holy phrases fall into the silence. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, and then let even that go. Wait. If a thought comes, do not pick it up. If a fear rises, do not touch it. If a religious glow warms you, do not nurse it. Wait. 3 minutes. Then rise and go about your business as if God were God. If there has been a lifting, you will know it by the quiet. If there has been no sign, you will know it by the same quiet. The sign is the silence itself. And so let us begin where we must, not with effort, not with argument, not with bravado, but with a daring surrender of those who have tried everything, and at last hear the simplest command, be still and know. Here, in this unadorned obedience, the axe is laid at the root, and the tree of two powers withers without a sound. Now, when I say, be still and know, I have set you at a crossroads. 3 roads meet here. One is well trod by good people with good hymns, faith, healing. One is swept clean by bright minds who have learned formulas and arguments, mental healing. And then there is a quiet footpath that looks like it leads nowhere at all because there is nothing on it, spiritual healing. I ask nothing of you but honesty at this crossing. You can go where you choose. I do not condemn any road, neither do I condemn thee. But for this work we must refuse 2 of them entirely. The first road is belief. Oh, it has comfort in it. It warms the heart. It sings. It makes one feel accompanied. It says, God will do it if only you believe enough, if only you put in more faith coins. And sometimes 5%. Perhaps something shifts for a moment and you say, my faith did it. But hear me, that is not spiritual healing. That is belief, working on a concept of God. It is faith in a God you have imagined, drawn from your childhood, your culture, your fear. It comforts, yes, it rarely dissolves the root. Why? because belief is a thought you hold against another thought. It is still the human mind clutching, striving, hoping against hope, trying to add its might to persuade infinity. Having begun in the spirit, are ye now made perfect by the flesh? If believing harder were the key, the saints of all superstitions would have healed the world 1,000 times over. We honor their sincerity. We cannot take their road. The second road gleams with method. It has charts, steps, and glorious phrases. It says, fix the thought, and the condition will obey. It says, declare the truth at the problem person until the person aligns. And you can feel the horsepower of it, mental treatment, banging at a mind, mind over mind, mind over matter. You are spiritual. You are perfect. You are harmonious. Over and over, as if your voice could climb the Tower of Babel and reach God's ear. Do you see? The treatment is directed at you, at the person, at the symptom. You become the target, the opponent. The practitioner becomes a very refined boxer, and sometimes the symptom yields, a pain moves, a fear quiets, a habit pauses until it returns with a new mask. Grasp this if you can. You have not touched the root. You have only rearranged the dream furniture. The carnal mind has not been made the opposite of divine mind. It has only been engaged as if it possessed presence. That is why the relief is often temporary. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Even beautiful spiritual words, used as clubs, are still the arm of flesh, nothingness, dressed in Sunday clothes. Now the third way, the spiritual way. This is the way of spiritual healing, is done without words and without thoughts. Without words and without thoughts. Not once to the person, not once to the symptom, not once to a God idea you have painted for hard times. The spiritual way is consent. Consent to presence as the only agency. It is the refusal to take sides in the dream, refusing the contest, refusing two powers. It is the watchman's stance, standing porter at the door of thought, not permitting even a golden sentence to slip in as a secret effort to make something happen. Be still and wait until it happens. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, yes, but then be silent and let the Spirit be upon you without your help. Do not think I condemn those who lean on belief or drill their thoughts. I have no interest whatsoever in condemning or correcting anyone. But I have the gravest interest in sparing you from mistaking a decorated effort for the presence of God. I cannot let you call a chorus of affirmations the Christ. I cannot let you mistake your glow for the divine announcement. The subtle trap, oh, it is subtle, is to dress personal effort in sacred words and then congratulate yourself that you were spiritual. My friends, that is still personal effort. That is still the flesh. That is still the same hypnotism that began with, "Yea, hath God said," in a garden of imagination. We are not here to become experts in godly language. We are here to die to language long enough for the living word to speak itself without our mouth. I had a letter once, 13 pages of details, commendable handwriting, diagnoses, timelines, testimonies from neighbors, and one kindly bishop. I read none of it. I held it unopened, and I sat 3 minutes, no words, no thoughts, and then I posted the letter back with 4 words. It is done. Rest. The reply that came later told me of a quiet that descended like a soft rain, and of symptoms that stopped asking for an audience. Now, do not imagine I did something or that my silence was a magic kernel. No. I refused to enter the play. I would not attend the 2nd chapter of Genesis and argue with the serpent about its plotline. I consented to presence and let it be the only agency. And when I rose, I knew nothing except the hush that follows the name. In him we live and move and have our being. Another day a man telephoned. He wanted, as he said, a strong treatment. He had memorized verses. He quoted at me while I listened to the seconds pass. "Give me a word," he pleaded. I gave him none. I said, "Hold a moment," and I let the receiver rest while I sank into no word, no thought. When I picked it up again, he was weeping softly and said, "Something let go. I don't know what, nor do I. I only know that when I am lifted, the I, that is not Joel, not you, the drawing takes place of itself. I, if I be lifted up, shall draw all men unto me. That is not your mental magnet. That is the presence declaring itself." So, at the crossroads, choose. Choose to refuse belief as a technique. Choose to refuse mind as an instrument. Choose to refuse the person as a project. Choose. Instead, the holy non-choosing of consent. Let the wind blow where it listeth. Hear the sound thereof. Do not chart it. Do not market it. Do not dress it up for your next testimony. In this way, you will be spared the fatigue of trying to maintain a healing with thoughts, spared the anxiety of measuring your faith as if it were a battery that runs your life. Take no thought for your life. This is either a command or a joke. I take it as command. We go on, then, with a single, quiet rule. We will not fix persons with belief or thought. We will consent to presence and let it be the only agency. When the phone rings, when the letter lies on the table, when the child cries in the night, the mind will sprint to one of the other roads and say, "Come, let us do something noble." Smile at it and say, "Not today." Close your eyes. 3 minutes, no words, no thoughts, and let God be God. When you open your eyes, do not look for a sign. Rest in the one power. If there is fruit, it will ripen without your fingers on it. And if there is only quiet, that is the fruit. And they rested in his word. So do we. Now we must name the root so that our axe does not swing at branches. If you treat leaves, you will gather bushels, and the tree will keep on living. If you strike the hidden root, the whole appearance withers without argument. The root is this: a universal hypnotism, a mesmerism that projects a second creation, a counterfeit Genesis, filled with opposites, health and sickness, lack and supply, sin and holiness, as if there were more than one. That is all. It is not your sin. It is not your psychology. It is not a mental file cabinet of early memories. It is the impersonal suggestion of a world apart from God, offered to your senses like a traveling show. Paul named its quality when he said, "The carnal mind is enmity against God." Do not make of that a monster. It is a term denoting nothingness. Do you catch that? Not an enemy power, not an equal foe, but the arm of flesh, nothingness. This is the second chapter of Genesis, the false creation, the dream Adam fell into when he closed his eyes to the first chapter where God made and saw that it was good. In your practice and in your kitchen, in your business and in your bed at 3 a.m, this is what presents as fever, as fear, as debt, as loneliness. Suggestion, not cause. Suggestion. A suggestion without a suggester, a lie without a liar. If you let it give you a person to blame, including yourself, you have already entered the sideshow and paid admission. Neither do I condemn thee. I cannot permit you to condemn yourself or your neighbor, because condemnation personalizes the unreal and grants it a history. In that instant you have left spirit and begun to treat shadows. Now then, if mesmerism is the root, you must see why I cannot listen to your case history, not because I am hard, but because stories about effects are part of the hypnosis. The longer the tale of symptoms and sins, the more real the suggestion feels, and the stronger your urge to fight it with an equal thought. That is two-power thinking. That is the barrier. I have not made carnal mind the opposite of divine mind. I do not meet it in contest. I meet it as nothing less than a feather on the scale of omnipresence. The arm of flesh will fail you. With us is the Lord our God to help us. But he is not recruited by speeches. He is realized in stillness. Let me draw you into a simple experiment that will offend your sophistication and liberate your heart. Close your eyes. Go on. Do not think a holy thought. Do not brace yourself. Just close them and allow a little street to appear in your mind, some houses, the glint of a window, and there, in the middle of the road, the sudden screech of tires, a cry, an accident. Feel how quickly your breath moves, how your human sympathy rises, how your noble wish to help begins to assemble its tools. Now open your eyes now. Where is the accident? Where is the street? Who was hurt? The dream has gone. Now do not be childish and say, but out there accidents happen. I am not speaking of out there. I am speaking of the root in your own awareness. The scene rose a suggestion, and you nearly enlisted. In that instant, between rising and enlistment, if you stand porter at the door of thought and refuse entrance, the dream collapses. The axe was laid at the root, not at the painted scenery. Carry that forward into life. A letter arrives with 3 diagnoses. A child stirs at midnight, hot and glassy-eyed. A bank balance threatens. If you run to the effect and seize it with thought, you are already too late. You have put your hands on the branches. You will shake them and make them rattle and perhaps drop a little fruit, but the tree stands. Instead, go where the root lives in your consciousness and meet the entire presentation as what it is, an impersonal hypnotic suggestion. Do not argue it out, bless it, or curse it. Close the door. 3 minutes. No words. No thoughts. Rest until presence announces itself, and when it does, or even in the hush before you can describe it, notice how the pressure to do something with the picture loosens, how the fascination with the story breaks, how the air clears. That break is the breaking of hypnotism. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still first, then see. Do not fear that this absolves responsibility. It is the only responsibility to refuse the dream at its root. Everything else is attempt, and attempts belong to the carnal mind. When Peter and John met the man at the beautiful gate, notice what they did not do. They did not take his history or debate his parents or examine the social causes. They said, "Look on us," which is to say, lift attention from the hypnotized picture to the realized presence. And then, not by thought, not by belief, but by the quickening of that presence, the man rose. "Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee." What did they have? Not psychology, not moral superiority. God realized, you will find, as you practice, that suggestions have familiar tricks. They whisper in first person, "I am afraid, I am sick, I am failing." They whisper in second person, "You had better hurry, you are in danger." They shout through headlines. They moan through lab reports. No matter, names and forms change. The root is one. Address it as one. If a thought comes to argue with it, set that thought outside. If a holy phrase tries to sneak in and help, send it to the pew to be quiet. Let God be true, but every man a liar, including the fine man who tries to assist God with spiritual language. This is not cynicism, it is purity. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single, not split between God and the accident, God and the virus, God and the bank. One, power. And now hear the hope inside this severity. If every discord is impersonal suggestion, then no one you love is a cause of suffering. No one you dislike is to blame. You are not under a private curse or a private fate. The field is cleared of enemies. There is only a mist to be burned off by a single sun. Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead. and Christ shall give thee light. Awake from what? From the Adam dream of a second creation. Arise from what? From identification with a dream person who thinks he is both victim and healer. And Christ shall what? Give thee light. Not you composing light with your thought, but given. So we lay the axe where it belongs. At the root, we do not treat a liver or a ledger. We do not adjust a personality. We do not manicure the dream. We meet mesmerism as nothingness, and we meet it only long enough for the presence to announce itself. Then we go on about our business as if God were God. If you want a sign, let it be this: the quiet after the name, the ease that requires no victory dance. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, not because you wield a better weapon, but because in the light of one power there is nothing left to prosper, and they rested in his word. So must we. Now we come to purification, and it is stern only because it is simple. The barrier is the belief in two powers. That is all. The human mind loves a noble contest. It would set divine mind to wrestle mortal mind, as if Olympus had hired a referee and we were spectators cheering for the brighter god. No, I have not made carnal mind the opposite of divine mind. Mortal mind is a term denoting nothingness. If you grant it status enough to fight, you have already enthroned it. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Hear that? No second cause, no rival claimant, no faint ghost of an authority. God hath spoken once, twice have I heard this, that power belongeth unto God. If power belongs to God, it does not belong also to pathology, to panic, to personalities. One power. Resist not evil, says the Master. That is not passivity, it is purity. You do not oppose a shadow. You turn on the light, and the shadow has no jurisdiction in which to plead its case. Prayer, then, is not the launching of holy projectiles at a symptom. Prayer is the quiet refusal to concede that there is anything outside of omnipresence requiring ammunition. No man can serve two masters. If, while you pray, you clutch one hand around a diagnosis and with the other hand reach for God, you have already split your allegiance. Make peace before you pray. If thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, first be reconciled, then come and offer thy gift. Make peace with your brother thought, your adversary picture, your trembling forecast, not by embracing it, not by decorating it, but by withdrawing the only life it has, your consent to its reality. So when the report arrives, do not oppose it, do not argue it, do not kiss it, do not pick it up at all. Refuse the contest. Stand porter at the door of thought and say, there is no second power to debate here. Close the door. 3 minutes. No words, no thoughts. And they rested in his word. That is the secret center. Rest is the prayer. Rest is the purification. In that rest, the imagined opponent does not find a ring to enter, and so no match is announced and no blows are exchanged. Where there is no contest, what appears as healing appears because nothing stood in the way of visibility being visible. A mother once telephoned, her voice tight, her child burning. Every syllable in me wanted to be noble and oppose a fever in the name of God. That is a temptation masquerading as virtue. I said, hold, and I let the receiver be while I let the mind be still. No words, no thoughts, not one thought about fever, not one thought about God against fever. Silence. Presently there came that small, interior loosening. You have begun to know the hush that follows the name. When I lifted the receiver, she said, it broke. I had given her nothing. I had denied the contest a stage. Peace, be still. The wind ceased, not because I shouted down the wind, but because there was recognized no second life in wind to oppose life. Do you see why your beautiful affirmations so often tire you? It is not that the phrases are untrue. It is that they are employed as spears against a phantom. You leave the altar with your gift of words and carry also a private grudge against an appearance. That is not purity. That is two masters in a single hand. Purification is uncompromising singleness. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Make your eye single. Refuse the inner quarrel that secretly hopes to triumph. Hope is not your instrument. Presence is. Two things, then, become your practice. First, when an opposing thought rises, repair it, resist it, reframe it, drop it as the arm of flesh. Nothingness. Do not stroke it because it is spiritual sounding. If it suggests a godly wrestling match, let it out by the same door it entered. Second, consciously refuse to treat a symptom. Treat the belief in two powers by withdrawing belief. That is all. Lay the axe at the root, not at lungs or ledgers, not at nerves or neighbors, at the belief that anything could stand up in the light and claim a little power of its own. When you do this, the picture often reconfigures, sometimes at once, sometimes later. Do not measure that. Measure your singleness. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. A businessman sat across from me once, suit wrinkled from a night of pacing. He had papers of threat and numbers of doom. He asked for a word he could carry into court. I said no, not because I am hard, because I will not equip you for a duel that does not exist. We sat 3 minutes, wordless. When he rose, nothing in the ledger had moved, but he had. He foamed days later. It dissolved. They withdrew. I can't explain it, nor need he. The imagined opponent was not fed. When presence is felt, the dream legislature adjourns. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Or better, the Lord has no opponent to fight, and in that recognition, peace holds you. Now some of you will ask, but what do I do with the fear while I am being so single? Do not do with it. Fear, too, looks for a contest either to be indulged or to be conquered. Let it find neither. Notice it as you would notice a fly at the window, and do not open the window to discuss hygiene with it. Keep the window shut. 3 minutes? No words, no thoughts. The fly grows quiet when there is no picnic. This is not technique. This is fidelity to one. So our protocol stands, but now it is clarified. Before any contact, before any act that would call itself prayer, end the quarrel in yourself. Make peace with every picture by removing its credentials. Refuse to install a sick person or a frightened self in your consciousness as an object to be fixed. There is no person to fix. There is only I am that I am. From that, all power radiates as presence, not as force. Let that be enough. Let it be all. If you catch yourself reaching for a thought, for a verse, for a private bravado, smile gently and lay it down, arm of flesh, nothingness. Healing appears when the imagined opponent is not granted reality. Only God is power. The rest is quiet. There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of God. Enter it. Lay down your weapons and do not name them prayer. And they rested in his word. Let that be your purification tonight, and the tree of contest will wither without a sound. Now we come to the core revelation, and it will not flatter you, but it will free you. If you are to refuse the contest, you must also refuse the combatant you have imagined yourself to be. Healing is not something you do. It is what presence is when you stop doing. But you will not stop doing until you have ceased to be a doer. That is identity. Where, then, is the seed of you? Out here in the changing person with a birth certificate and a file of memories? Or back here, behind the eyes, before the thought, witnessing this scene come and go as the sea witnesses waves? The I that is God-derived is not the body, not its history, not the praise it received, nor the blame it fears. The I is prior to the body and will be after its usefulness. Before Abraham was, I am. This is not poetry. It is your address. Try this tenderly. Close your eyes not to fall asleep, but to cease identifying with the mask. Notice the breathing. Notice the slight sway in the spine. Notice the pictures rise and fall, but decline to be any of them. Who notices them? Say nothing. Just see that witnessing is present without effort. That witness is closer to you than name or age. That is the I of which I speak. When I rest there, when any of us rest there, mesmerism falters because it cannot find the person it came to visit. It knocks at the door asking for a Mr. Problem, and there is no such tenant. Your life is hid with Christ in God. Hidden where? Not in a safer body, but in the I that is God's self-revelation. You are not well because your heart is well. Your heart is well because you are. That you is the I am. Reverse the causality and you will reverse the whole dream. In the false creation, the second chapter of Genesis, the Adam dream, the body governs the person, organs dictate mood, chemistry controls destiny. In the first creation, God saw, God said, God is spirit, governs visibility, life governs form, identity governs organs. You do not exist because limbs move because you, I, life are. If you insist that the organ must first be whole in order for you to be whole, you have made two powers and enthroned the lesser. I am the resurrection and the life. He did not say the pancreas is the resurrection. You will ask rightly, but how do I live this and not merely think it, die daily? That is Paul's blunt counsel. Not die to the bad human and improve to a better human. Die to both. Lay the axe at the root of humanhood, good and ill. Do not nurse your virtues as if they were coins. God will reward. Do not cradle your failures as if they were chains. God must break. Neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. A new creature is not the old man patched and polished. It is awareness transferred from the problem person to the I, that is, each morning, each hour, if need be, consent to let your personal story fall through your fingers and wait 3 minutes. No words, no thoughts. Let the I announce itself. When it does, the persona does not vanish. It simply loses authority. It becomes a transparency for the I instead of a claimant against it. Now, do not condemn the persona. Do not excuse it. Neither do I condemn thee, said the master to a woman branded by the village, and to the respectable Nicodemus he said, Ye must be born again, do you see? He would not accuse the sinner, nor would he congratulate the respectable. He called both out of humanhood to I am. In practice, this means when a picture rises saying, I have failed, or another rises saying, I have succeeded, stand porter at the door of thought and admit neither as identity. You may acknowledge the picture as an appearance, you may make amends or rejoice, as courtesy suggests, but you do not install either in consciousness as you. The moment you do, hypnotism has personalized itself and you will begin to fix or to defend. That is how the contest is smuggled back in. A woman came once with a noble collection of good deeds and an unwelcome growth. She wanted the deeds to plead her case and the growth to be judged and sentenced. I am not judge, and there is no case at bar. I said, sit. We were quiet, no words, no thoughts. Presently, the small interior recognition rose, the hush that has no shape. When she stood, she said nothing. She simply looked lighter, as if a name she had worn too long had been misplaced. Weeks later, she wrote that the evidence on the body had receded. I tell you this not to make a shrine of result, but to point you to process. The persona was not excused by its goodness nor accused by its symptom. Identity shifted, and the mesmerism found no one to argue with. The arm of flesh nothingness. Do not make of this a mystical escape. It is the most practical act you will ever perform. When bills clamor or bones ache or a relationship pleads its case, if you remain the problem person, you will fight, fix, bargain, or despair. All of that is the field in which the hypnotism thrives. Withdraw identification and the field is cleared. It is no longer I that live, but Christ liveth in me. Read that again. Without pietism. It means the I that wakes, listens, calls, embraces, writes, checks, prepares meals, meets strangers, is not a frightened separate self. It is I am appearing as you. From that basis, the organ obeys order because order precedes organ. The ledger obeys balance because life precedes numbers. The relationship obeys peace because peace precedes persons. Cause has come home. Yes, I know this sounds like audacity. It is not personal arrogance. It is quiet authority. The people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Authority does not shout. It does not assemble arguments. It abides in the I that speaks only what it is. When the I is realized even as a breath, even as a still glance, what seems solid begins to show its vapor. The hypnotism breaks of its own nothingness. You did not conquer it. You did not even engage it. I, if I be lifted up, shall draw all men unto me. When I is lifted, the drawing is effortless. The symptom, the fear, the debt are not pushed out. They are dissolved for want of a believer. There is a phrase the epistle to the Hebrews uses for Melchizedek: without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life. Do not make a legend of him. Take him as type. Your real identity is not traced by blood nor confined to calendars. Before your mother knew she was with child, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, saith the Lord. If that is so, then you are not dependent on the body to be you. The body depends on you to be body. Reverse the causality, and you will watch the dream rearrange without your hands on it. Now, how does this become daily bread? It becomes bread by timing it. Sit, as we have said, 3 minutes before every contact, every decision, and most of all before every temptation to call yourself by the old name. Let the name be set aside. Let I am take the seat. Say nothing, think nothing, watch. If a thought sneaks in to help, send it back to the pew. If a memory climbs on the lectern to testify for or against you, simply withdraw attention. Stand porter. In that unoccupied sanctuary, presence announces itself. When you rise, do not measure the light. Walk in it. Let organs, ledgers, and letters be added unto you as visibility of what is. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. We return from persona to I. We rest there, and in that rest, appearances lose root because the ground in which they grew, the belief that you are the problem person, is no more. Now we must put a bit of iron in the spine of our tenderness. Love without discipline becomes sentiment, and sentiment feeds the dream. This is the protocol of silence. It is simple, and for that reason, you will be tempted to improve it with words, to decorate it with thoughts, to stretch it to fit your nervousness. Do not. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Shut the door. Do not peer through the keyhole to see if your prayer is working. Shut the door and keep it shut for 3 minutes. Set the boundary at the point of contact. Nobody can be on my telephone over 3 minutes, not because I am hard, but because I am poor protection for you if I let your case talk me out of the closet and into the sideshow. Faith and mental healing thrive on explanations. Spiritual healing dies in them because spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. If you cannot speak the need in one quiet sentence, write it on a card and send it. Do not send me an autobiography with a medical appendix. I have no interest whatsoever in them or what they're coming to me for. Not you, not the body, not the history or my subject. God is. So let your letter be brief. Hold me in your silence, or child fever, please take into prayer. That is enough. Let thy words be few. Now, at the moment of contact, or before it, which is best, sit down, become still. Do not affirm, do not deny, do not visualize, do not plead, do not dress up omnipresence as if it needed a costume to be recognized. Sit and do nothing. Yes, that is the stumbling block. Your habit is to help God along with a verse or a vista of white light. Send your helps to the pew and stand alone. Be still and know that I am God. Still first. Knowing follows by grace, not by effort. Stand porter at the door of thought. Neither accept nor reject the story that wants to walk in wearing its credentials. If you accept it, you will fight it. If you reject it, you will secretly fear it. Neither keep the threshold clear. The carnal mind, mortal mind. Hypnotism is the arm of flesh. Nothingness. It gains the whole case when it can get a hearing. Do not convene court. Dismiss it without trial by keeping silence. Exact practice. Set a clock if you must. 3 minutes. Watch the temptation to reach for a holy sentence. Watch the urge to check results. Watch the noble itch to remember the person's name with pity. Let each of these knock. Do not open. Do not open even to throw them out. That too is opening. Let them fade of their own weightlessness at a door that will not move. Presently, sometimes at once, sometimes after the longest 15 seconds you ever lived, there comes a small sign. Not summoned, not manufactured, a breath that is more than breath, a simple release as if a belt had been loosened, a clarity that has no picture. That is the signal of readiness. It means nothing has happened to God. It means your attention has come home. Stop there. Do not garnish it. Do not convert it into language. Do not rub the lamp to see if more gold will fall out. That quiet is presence announcing itself. I keep a rule for myself here, and it will save you. End quickly. Once presence is felt, even like the faintest scent in the air, close the contact and return to silence. On the telephone, that means this. I do not discuss the dream. I do not debrief the fear. I do not inquire whether heat has left, money has arrived, or apologies have been made. I say good, and we hang up. If you think that is rude, it is rudeness to the hypnotism, not to you. To stretch the call is to invite the story back into the room, and then we will be noble together and enlist in a war that has no enemy. And they rested in his word. Rest. Do not get up to measure the bed. In letters, do the same. When a note arrives, I do not carry it to the altar as an offering of sorrow. I glance only long enough to know the one line, the need, as a word pointing away from itself, and then I sit 3 minutes. No words, no thoughts. If the sign comes in 15 seconds, I do not sit 30 minutes to make it official. I stop, I fold, I leave it. If there is no felt sign, I do not prolong the vigil to wring one out of heaven. I complete the 3 minutes and trust the principle more than my senses. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Earth, in this case, is every whispering appearance. Let it keep silence. Your faith is not that you can generate a glow. Your faith is that God is, and that stillness is sufficient condition for realization. Now, you will say, but surely there are emergencies. There are only emergencies to the human sense of time. Presence is never late. The Red Sea opens without committees. When Moses stops pacing and hears, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The child's fever breaks not because I composed a better thought, but because in the quiet there was no contest for it to feed on. Do you think Peter and John held a case conference at the beautiful gate? Look on us. And then the invisible law did what law does. The method is disciplined non-method, timed, wordless, waiting until presence announces itself. You, too, before every contact of your day, letters, appointments, sermons, ledgers, meals, sit your 3 minutes. Before you answer the door, answer the inner door. Before you open your mouth, shut the secret door. Make it your habit until it becomes your nature. If the thought slips in that a client will be disappointed by brevity, bless them by denying their story air. If another thought says you'll seem cold, remember the Master's standard. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Say yes to presence, say no to the tale. That is warmth beyond weather. Do not perform postmortems on silence. Do not measure outcomes like a field manager counting widgets. If a sign shows later ease in the body, funds appearing, a soft word where a hard one was expected, give thanks without making a souvenir out of it. If no visible sign appears yet, hold your peace. Return to the closet again before the next contact. The axe does not swing at branches every hour. It rests at the root, and because it rests there, the tree weakens by day and by night without your fussing over it. So this is the method that is no method. 3 minutes before every contact in which you stand porter at the door of thought, and do not let words or concepts play at prayer. Silence is the discipline, presence is the doer. And when the small breath comes, or the quiet arrives with no breath at all, that is all. Close the call, fold the letter, walk on in the eye that is. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Return, rest, be still, let God be God. Now we do it, not talk about it, not ornament it. We do the nothing that lets God be God. This is the hardest simple instruction. Stop trying to heal. We are not preparing to make a prayer. We are laying down the instrument by which we would pretend to play God's music. If you find yourself already reaching for a verse, I understand. I can slide by this hour with difficulty myself, but I'll get by. Sit upright. Feet under you, not crossed, the body unargued, as if it had already agreed to be servant and not master. Let the hands rest wherever they will, not advise you. Close the eyes, not as escape, but as refusal to worship the external. Let the jaw soften, the forehead uncrease. Let the shoulders notice gravity and consent to it. Now, this is the disposition. Let every expectation fall away. Do not imagine relief. Don't visualize success. Don't assemble your best thoughts like a choir and hope God will be impressed. The arm of flesh, nothingness. Even the noble wish to help is a handsome beggar at the door. Do not open. We are not here to ask, not here to fix, not here to press omnipresence into service. We are here to consent to presence as all. If you must shape a whisper at the very threshold, let it be this silently once. Thy presence is sufficient. Then drop even that. No words, no thoughts. Be still. and know that I am God. Still first, knowing is grace. We will refuse the contest before it proposes a ring. If a thought arrives saying, body, fear, deadline, neighbor, do nothing, do not pet it, do not push it, do not reason with it. Let it pass like a paper boat on the river of attention that does not stop to read messages. Stand porter at the door of thought, neither accept nor reject. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Earth is every report, every argument, even the bright spiritual ones. Keep silence. This is faithfulness to one power. There is no second to argue with. 3 minutes. No words. No thoughts. Watch what presence does when you are not trying to do it. We will be still now, there. Keep the eyes closed for one natural breath more. Do not name what happened. Do not make a museum out of a moment. Do not ask whether it worked. And they rested in his word. Rest is the seal. If you felt a breath you did not summon, if a soft, clear quiet entered the room without knocking, if nothing at all seemed to occur, treat all of it alike. Do not grade God. The entire secret is this: realization is given, not produced. It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure, not by your mental carpentry, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. You may notice now the mind, like a schoolboy after assembly, wants to chatter. It would like to ask for the report. Was there heat, light, a sign? Smile at it as at a child who does not yet understand the service. We will not hold a post-mortem on silence. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Peace that passes understanding will not pose for understanding's camera. Let it keep you without your commentary keeping it. If a sign comes later, let it come as weather comes. If nothing is seen, do not beat the air. These signs shall follow them that believe. Follow, not be chased or curated. What did we do? Nothing. What was done? No thing. Presence was presence. That is all. You refuse to introduce a second power by arguing it. You did not organize the carnal mind into a straw opponent. You did not elevate mortal mind to the dignity of a foe. That is laying the axe at the root. In that refusal, the hypnotism cannot find its claimant. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. See, not manufacture. Salvation is not a product. It is the nature of God made visible when you are not fogging the glass. Now, gently open the eyes, as if not to disturb a bird that has alighted on the sill. Keep the posture of non-doing as you re-enter the visible. This is the first test. Carry the hush into motion. Let the next breath, the next gesture, flow from the quiet, not from hurry's old jurisdiction. If a thought returns to audition, but what about the body, the bill, the brother? Do nothing. The arm of flesh, nothingness. Presence is the only agency. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Staying is not straining, it is returning, returning, returning. You will be tempted to turn this into a newly sharpened technique. Your mind, loving to be useful, will say, now I know how to get results. Refuse that bribe. Results are not your department. Obedience is. One power is. The axe remains at the root because you do not pick it up to whittle souvenirs. Stop trying to heal. Stop trying to make prayer work. Stop counting. Consent, be still, and walk on. If a telephone rings or a letter asks, let this be the procedure behind all procedure. 3 minutes, no words, no thoughts, until the small interior release attests to readiness. Then end quickly. Do not drag the silence back through the hedge of talk. Let this moment tutor the rest of your day. Before you step into the next room, answer the inner door. Before you address a friend or a stranger, hear, "My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest." Let rest go with you as authority. The practice is not a spectacle. It is a rule of life. And life is simply I am being itself, where you thought a doer must accomplish. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Lift the I in you by getting out of its way, and what must be drawn will be drawn without your hands pulling. We will not be dramatic about this. Quiet is our banner. Quiet is our warfare, which is no warfare at all because there is no enemy to engage. Walk softly now, not as fragile, but as one who has seen that the temple is filled and needs no incense from human thought. Keep returning. Keep the axe at the root. 3 minutes before each contact, not as magic, but as fidelity. Presence, not procedure, does the work. And they rested in his word. Let that be the benediction that travels with you. After the silence, resist the itch to interpret it. This is where the mind, with the best intentions in the world, walks back in and asks for a receipt. It wants to know what happened, how much happened, and where to file it. Do not cooperate. If there was a gentle release, notice it and let it pass. If a breath came of its own accord and seemed to open the cage of the ribs, let that, too, go by without inscription. If a sense of impersonal lightness rose, not like excitement, but like burdens setting themselves down, bow inwardly and move on. These are not proofs to be held. They are the breeze at dawn announcing that the sun does not need your lamplight. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. Do not demand that peace present you with a passport stamp, and they rested in his word. Rest means you do not convert a moment into memorabilia. Equally holy is the plain stillness without ripple, the 3 minutes that seem like nothing at all. Do not make a theology of absence. God is not registered by the body's needle. There is nothing in Scripture that requires a flutter to certify omnipresence. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Let all the earth, your nerves, your predictions, your stopwatch, keep silence. The realization is given, not produced. It is not graded by sensation. To expect the sign is to invite the old faith and mental healing habits to take their seats at the altar. Spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. It does not court sensations as if they were the Spirit's signature. Refuse testing. This is vital. Do not prod the dream to see if it has changed its decor. The moment you pinch the body for news, or ask the ledger to affirm a miracle, or telephone a second time to inquire whether anything happened, you have convened court again, and appearances are eager litigants. An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, said the Master, not as condemnation of the curious, but as diagnosis of the habit that makes signs a condition of trust. These signs shall follow them that believe. Follow, not be chased or interrogated. Let the signs come after. Do not run before them with a clipboard. And when they do come, do not be surprised that they arrive by a road you did not name. The Spirit is not your valet. I had a call once about a child's fever. I sat as I sit with you 3 minutes. No words, no thoughts, and the small, unmanufactured stillness descended. I closed the call quickly. The mother wrote the next day, the fever eased by evening. But what astonished her was that the father, absent and hard for months, came home sober and soft, and a quarrel that had haunted the house ended without a speech. Another time a man begged about his leg. He was tired of pain. I sat, and that was all. The next morning he reported that the bitterness against the partner had lifted like fog. A week later he added, puzzled and grateful that he had walked to the corner without thinking of the leg. Do you see? What presence touches may be other than what was named, and it is always more. The tree falls, not at the twig you point to, but at the root where the axe rests. Now you will be tempted to narrate. The mind enjoys a testimonial, and there is nothing wrong with gratitude expressed, but be watchful. Do not make the story a magnet. Do not hang the fruit in the window so that you begin to farm results. Results are not your department. One power is. Keep to the stance you learned in silence. Stand porter at the door of thought. Every time a picture returns, a twinge that whispers, still here, a bank figure that mutters, not yet, a memory that argues, but he said, treat it with the same uncompromising kindness, neither accept nor reject. The carnal mind, mortal mind, universal hypnotism, however you like to name nothingness, is fed by your attention. Starve it. Do not referee its claims. The arm of flesh, nothingness. This is integration. You carry the hush like a lamp inside your coat, and do not bring it out to prove it works. After the contact, remain wordless within. If someone asks for a report, let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. It is well is a complete sentence. If a part of you insists that you must stay on the line to shepherd the effect, remember that shepherding effects is how we keep the dream employed. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Not audited by you, not herded by you, added. If you find your hand reaching for the branch to see if sap is running, put the hand down and return to the root. Lay the axe there again in stillness. You will learn that rest is not laziness, it is fidelity. There remaineth, therefore, a rest to the people of God. Let us labor, therefore, to enter into that rest. The labor is simply this disciplined refusal to measure the spirit with instruments borrowed from the dream. It is the humility to let God be God without your supervision. When a day passes with no visible alteration, you have lost nothing. You have gained practice in one power, which is everything. When a day arrives with alteration overflowing, receive it as weather, bless it, and remain in the same wordlessness that preceded it. Do not let the sunshiny report coerce you into techniques any more than a cloudy one will tempt you to despair. In time, though, the word time becomes thin. Here you will notice that your life has adopted a new gait. You do not hurry to fix, and you do not dally to celebrate. You abide. You watch the dream weaken because it is not fed. You watch conversations shorten and compassion deepen. You notice the breath return on its own all through the day, not as a sign to capture, but as a quiet witness that the temple is attended. This is how effects take care of themselves. This is how the hypnotism finds no claimant at your door. Stop trying to heal. Keep consenting. Do not measure the spirit. Rest in one power. My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. And they rested in his word. Now let us walk through the scenes where this is either kept alive or traded for a little theater. Letters first. When a letter arrives, I do not let it preach to me. I do not make it a novel. Name, place, simple need, no history. Anna, Ohio, child fever. Mark, Nairobi, rent due. Quiet for surgery, Boston, that is enough. Let your words be few. I glance once, and only once. I am not sightseeing in someone's nightmare. I have no interest whatsoever in them or what they're coming to me for, not because I am hard, but because I am poor company for them. If I let the story hypnotize me, there is no counsel, no analysis, no how long has this gone on. The carnal mind would love a hearing. It has a portfolio of statistics to prove itself. That is the arm of flesh nothingness. So I read the one line, I closed the page, and at once I enter the closet. 3 minutes, no words, no thoughts. I stand porter at the door of thought and allow no defendant or witness to take the stand. When the small release comes, or if it does not come, when the 3 minutes complete, I stop. I do not carry the letter to the kitchen, to the pillow, to my friend. I fold it and return to silence. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. On the telephone, the rule is firmer because the temptation is louder. Nobody can be on my telephone over 3 minutes. Not because people are a burden, but because I will betray you if I let your words build a case and then nobly oppose it. I answer. I listen for the one sentence, and if the one sentence will not appear, I help it appear. Give me the need in a sentence. If it cannot be given, I bless you and hang up and go to the closet for both of us. But if it is given, my child has fever, I am afraid to sleep, my partner and I are hard, I answer with nothing more than good. All right, I have it, and I withdraw within, sometimes while you are still on the line, more often after the soft good and the click. 3 minutes. No words, no thoughts. There must be a realization of God's presence, and that realization is not helped by your adjectives or mine. Now hear this because it will save you from disappointment, masquerading as discernment. The thing named may not be the first thing that yields. Presence orders the priority. For your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. A man telephoned about migraines. What went first was his hatred for his brother. The headaches became boring after that, and soon they lacked the soil to grow in. A woman wrote with a red ink emergency about rent. What broke that night was her iron anxiety around tomorrow, and the rent took care of itself, as if it had been late to a party that was already starting. Do not try to shepherd the effect into the shape you admire. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Lift the eye and let the drawing be done by the law of its own being. If you fix your eye on the symptom, you will invite the contest and pit your best affirmation against the best statistics. We refuse that. One power in all this, keep the stance of non-condemnation. Neither do I condemn thee. Do not let the old courthouse open with its clerk reading off charges. Well, she always worried he sinned in this way. They never listened. Psychology may have its place in the world, but not here. Not in the temple where no man's history is either cause or cure. Judge not that ye be not judged. We are not here to blame, and we are not here to excuse. We are here to behold. Spiritual healing is not a trial. It is the light revealing that there was no culprit apart from a universal hypnotism that has no law, no substance, no mind. Impersonal. Impersonal. That is how compassion grows razor sharp and remains tender. Do you remember the Master's manner? He did not hold case conferences by the pool. He said, "Wilt thou be made whole?" And then, even to the guilty, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." The going and the no more spring from presence, not from shame. And after every contact letter, call, hallway word, a look exchanged across a room, return at once to stillness. This is not optional. The mind loves to rehearse the case. It loves to mutter, to measure, to improve yesterday's silence with today's commentary. Refuse it. Take no thought for your life means in practice. Do not pick the thing up again in thought as if your ruminations were trustees of omnipotence. As soon as you close the note, sit 3 minutes. As soon as you say good and the line is silent, sit 3 minutes. Do not report to a second person what the first person said. Do not take the case to the dinner table or the pillow. If an image returns of the need, do not open the door even to throw it out. That is opening. Let it be nothing at a door that does not move. If your lips must shape anything, let it be the lightest. It is well. and that only as a dismissal bell for the mind, then wordlessness again. There are small tactics that make this fidelity simple. Keep cards or a small book by the phone. When a call begins, write the name, the place, and the one-sentence need. As soon as you hang up, close the book and sit. Do not reopen the book as if it were a shrine. It is a practical aid for a forgetful brain, not a sacred totem. At the mailbox, make agreement with yourself. I will not read on the street. I will carry the envelopes in, put them down, sit 3 minutes, then open one, glance once, fold, sit 3, and so on. You will find that 5 letters may take 15 minutes of clock, but an eternity is at work, and the work is not yours. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Not you, he. And about the door of thought, the busiest door in town, stand porter. Do not admire the costumes that parade past. Drama, pity, noble urgency, metaphysical pride. They all want the same thing, your attention. Deny it. Audience. Not by force, but by fidelity to quiet. If an argument shouts, answer it with nothing. If guilt whispers, answer it with nothing. If your own memory volunteers, you forgot to. Answer with the same nothing until the you that fixes and forgets has no post to return to. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Stayed is not clenched. Stayed is returned and returned and returned. So these are the scenes and the rule that binds them. Keep every contact impersonal, brief, and rooted in silence. Letters, name, place, simple need, no history, read once, sit, fold, forget. Calls, never over 3 minutes. Hear the need, withdraw within, realize presence, close the call. After, return to silence, not to rehearsal. Refuse blame and psychology. Say with the master, neither do I condemn thee. Trust the law that the named thing may not be first to yield, because presence orders the priority and makes the crooked straight without consulting your maps. Lay the axe at the root by doing nothing but consenting to one power and then walking on. Presence, not procedure, does the work, and they rested in his word. Now, let us set this as a life, not an episode. A day is not holy by accident. It is consecrated by fidelity. Do not make vows you cannot keep. Make a small rule you will not break. 2 or 3 times in the day, morning before feet touch the business of earth, somewhere near the middle when fatigue or pride would like a seat, and in the quiet that precedes sleep sit, timed, wordless. Still, 3 minutes is not a superstition. It is a mercy. If the mind argues for more because it fancies itself suddenly spiritual, stop at the bell. Do not let devotion turn into effort, and effort into a subtle faith or mental treatment. Spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. The bell is your friend because it prevents you from harvesting blossoms for display. You are not building a museum. You are letting presence announce itself. In between those set times, carry the rule like a seed under the tongue, before any help, any 3 minutes of silence, or do nothing. If you cannot give 3 minutes, you will give words, and words are the currency of a courtroom we have closed. If a need runs up to you in the hallway, bless them with a glance that says, "It is well," and excuse yourself to the closet. If that is impossible, excuse yourself inwardly on the spot, 3 minutes within, even while the mouth says little. But never invert the order. We do not do, then pray. We do not perform, then ask God to autograph it. We consent first. We lift first. We let one power be one power. Before a hand moves, before a sentence is shaped, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me" is not a speech. It is the felt authority that descends in the quiet and makes any subsequent gesture the overflow of God, rather than the sweat of a human doer. If that spirit has not been consciously entertained, do not proceed. Better to seem rude to the dream than to become useful to the hypnotism. And now, the long practice that never ends. Stand porter at the door of thought. Day long, not grimly, faithfully. If a thought of two powers presents its badge, pain versus relief, lack versus supply, guilt versus forgiveness, do not arrest it, do not argue it, do not even show it the way out. Let it meet a door that does not open. The arm of flesh, nothingness. That is not a clever phrase, it is a posture. Each time you refuse to conduct a conversation with an appearance, the axe is laid at the root again, because the root of the dream is always consent to second power. Refuse consent 20 times today, and you will notice that the 20th refusal asks less of you than the first. Yes, the mind will complain that you are not being practical. It will offer headlines, medical names, budgets, memories. Stand porter. Let the earth keep silence before him. There will be days when the stillness seems thin and others when it pours. Do not grade them. Fidelity is the harvest, not sensation. You are not collecting good days. You are living in one power. If you catch yourself angling for a sign, smile and return. If you overhear your thoughts rehearsing answers to people you have not yet met, return. If a noble plan for serving the world arranges itself in your brain like a parade, return. The method is disciplined non-method. Silence until presence announces itself. Then ordinary life carried by extraordinary quiet. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. When the I, that is God awareness, is lifted, you do not lift men, women, conditions, accounts. Draw is the law. Your task is the lifting, which in practice is your laying down. Sit, consent, stop trying to heal, stop trying to fix, stop trying to make God hurry. Lift and let the drawing be what it is. Anchor yourself as the scriptures anchor the boat, but understand them as realization, not recitation. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me is not a charm to hang on emergency. It is the interior anointing that makes even your silence eloquent. I, if I be lifted up, is not a rally cry to win a contest. It is the abandonment of contest, because there is only one power. Be still and know that I am God is not a verse to post on the refrigerator so worry can admire it. It is an instruction to obey with your next 3 minutes. And my presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest, means that rest goes with you as authority when you have not brought a second power along for company. Let these words not be used to fortify human courage. Let them dissolve human courage so that the Christ stands up where the person slumps. This is your rule of life and mine. Lay the axe daily, not once in crisis and then back to the world's carpentry, but every day, calmly, invisibly, unfailingly. If you miss a sitting, do not turn it into penance. Sit now. If you sit and find yourself thinking for 180 seconds, do not prosecute yourself. Sit again later, and let even the failure be met as nothingness. Keep the contacts impersonal, your speech few, your inner posture unwavering. Refuse the contest whenever a report shouts, "Fight me." There is only one power, and that power is not improved by your thoughts, nor reduced by your fears. Let the life you live be simplest where it counts. 3 minutes, no words, no thoughts, before every contact, 2 or 3 times daily, timed, wordless waiting that you do not stretch into a technique or a performance. That is the axe at the root, every day. Now we will not review. We will not admire the path we have cut. We will not gather the sentences into a bouquet and congratulate ourselves on having listened. We will do as we have said. We will leave it in silence, and they rested in his word. Let that be the benediction that walks out with you, not as a tune to hum, but as the hush that already is. Be still and know